Hey guys, we're going to be checking out the UI performance here for the Nexus 5 on the left versus the Galaxy S5 on the right. Now both these devices are running the latest version of Android to date, that is of course KitKat 4.4.2. The Nexus 5 is stock Android, so there's no OEM skin, whereas the Galaxy S5 is of course running Samsung's TouchWiz, so let's see how they fare. Now I freshly booted both these devices, I haven't opened any applications, you can see there's nothing in the recents for both. These are the applications I'll be testing out. I will try and be as accurate as I possibly can, but take into account a bit of human error, so here we go. Now while this is going on, let me just tell you a little bit about the specs. The Nexus 5 is running the Snapdragon 800 clocked at 2.3 GHz. The Galaxy S5 is running the Snapdragon 801 clocked at 2.5 GHz. So it has the newer processor and a higher clock rate. But so far what we've seen is these two are really evenly matched at app opening speed. Both are pretty much identical. Facebook was the only area where the Galaxy S5 was quite a way in front, and I'm not quite sure why that is. That may be due to network activity, but I don't quite know. I did test it more than once, and every time the Galaxy S5 did win. But in pretty much every application other than that, they are very neck and neck, trading blows each way. Sometimes the Nexus 5 would win, sometimes the Galaxy S5 would win. For the camera opening speed, I used the new Google camera for both first, and you can see the Nexus 5 was just a hair quicker than the Galaxy S5. I then cleared the memory for both cameras, and I used the Samsung camera app on the Galaxy S5, and once again you'll see the Nexus 5 just comes out on top. So moving on to multitasking, both these devices have 2 GB of RAM. Firstly, I wanted to test out the responsiveness of the multitask button. So if we do that here, you can see that the Nexus 5 definitely wins in this area. The Galaxy S5 has quite a delay when you actually look at it in slow motion. I think this is actually down to the Galaxy S5 going into immersive mode when you're in the multitasking section, but it does slow it down, and if you want to multitask very quickly, you can definitely see it's going to slow you down, whereas the Nexus 5 doesn't. Now in terms of actually switching the applications, again you'll notice the Galaxy S5 has a delay. You can see it pretty evidently here in slow motion. The Nexus 5 is pretty quick to respond. Again, the Galaxy S5 having that delay when the status bar disappears and reappears. Now that may not seem like a massive deal to you, but if you want to switch between your apps very quickly, this delay is going to slow you down and it can become pretty annoying. And it's pretty evident that it's not a one-off. This has pretty much happened with every application I've tested on here. The Nexus 5 is definitely the more responsive and snappier device in terms of its multitasking speed. Now I mentioned previously that both these devices have 2 GB of RAM, and I opened the exact same number of applications, but you'll see here from this point onwards the Galaxy S5 is having to reload the applications, whereas the Nexus 5 still has them in memory. The main reason for that is the Samsung bloatware on the Galaxy S5. It's using up more of the memory, so less is available for your applications. The Nexus 5 on the other hand doesn't have any of those Samsung bloatware apps running in the background, not to mention that stock Android is a lot lighter on the RAM than TouchWiz is anyway. So the Nexus 5 just has more free RAM available for your applications and your multitasking. You can see here even Google Chrome is still in memory on the Nexus 5, whereas again the Galaxy S5 is having to reload it. It's only when you get to the very end of the list that the Nexus 5 is having to reload the application. So in terms of the raw app opening speed, there really wasn't much between these two devices. Both are very quick in that department. In terms of the general UI, I would say the Nexus 5 has a slight edge over the Galaxy S5. It just feels that little bit more fluid, that little bit more responsive at opening menus and doing the small things. And when you kind of add all those things up, it does make a difference. It's hard to actually put your finger on it, but when you've got both devices in your hands at the same time and you play with them, you can definitely see that the Nexus 5 is the more snappy device. And sometimes that TouchWiz lag still rears its ugly head, especially in the gallery here. Now, by no means is the Galaxy S5 slow. It's not. It definitely is a very quick device and a major improvement over what we had on the Galaxy S4. But it still doesn't quite match that experience you get on stock Android, especially in the multitasking department. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Peace out.